as much as I didn't want to do it, I turned down Leonard Skinner. You know, it seems like whenever I'm down here, click it on, it's either Free Bird or Sweet Home Alabama or any number of other good Leonard Skinner songs. Well, most of you might know me, you know, mostly for my bows or the preserve or what have you, but it might be a surprise and a shock to know that in years past I involved myself in other activities, including boat building. Boats fascinate me. They really do. Boats, the original vessel. A little sovereign citizen humor there. Anyway, it's interesting though that the only time that I have ever destroyed, burned intentionally, danced around the flames of a bunch of templates and forms and jigs was because of a boat building project. I had a winter of building these things. There's like the paddle boat, which isn't a paddle boat. It's you're paddling it. That's why it's called a paddle boat. And then it goes up all the way to northern Michigan, which is a certain class of sailboat. And in these parts, there was this small, like flat bottom John boat that little kids would start at. Then there was the next step of sailing boat, vessel, sail vessel, you know, a little bit bigger. And then it would go up to the NM. And I was conned into building a bunch, I think 20 of them one winter, of the small wooden boats that the kids start on. Well, you know, you would think that if you're bidding out bows, it can be a financial losing proposition, you know, unless you find your beat and you figure out a way to do it that actually makes sense, you know, if you're trying to make a little bit of extra jingle from it. Boats are worse. You know, if you bid out building wooden boats, unless you're in the game for a long time and can figure out, you know, in advance what it's going to cost you as far as time and materials, you're going to eat it big time. And that's what I did. I made these 20 boats and I ate it big time. And I was so disappointed. I burned all the plans, formers, passed it on to somebody else. It's like I spent all this time building all these jigs and stuff, the production method. You figure it out. I'm not going to save you any time. That was kind of mean, you know, for the next builder of these things, but hey, you know, it is what it is. However, I have never lost my love of boats. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. I actually have the bow and stern of the one I built for myself. This was an amazing boat. This thing was BA. And you can kind of see it's collected leaves and stuff because I stuck it on things outside. It's kind of a trophy looking thing, but this was my version of, say, like a Viking canoe. And this thing could handle any weather. I'd keep it tied up at the beach, and then, you know, when the weather was bad, I would go out rowing. And this thing, it could handle anything. And unfortunately, the middle portion of it rotted. It received a Viking funeral, but this is inspiring me to build a second boat. I want you to go to a couple YouTube videos. The first one is, I wrote it on my hand, the Gecko 375 canoe. And not that I want to build the Gecko 375 canoe. This is a building method which I like. This actually was, you know, built like that in a way. No plans. I just built it in the basement. It was 16 feet long. Was lucky enough to be able to get it out the Bilco doors. But I like that building method. I use different frames for it and a different keel and stuff like that. But it was built kind of on the order of the Gecko 375. Okay. You have the building method down. The next one you're going to like. Look up Australian dinghy racing Red Bull series. And you're going to see these crazy Australians racing, you know, through these like marshes and swamps and little creeks with tree stumps in them, you know, at incredible speeds. I like that. And so what I want to do after, you know, I have to break up my day because now I'm basically unemployed for the next 5 months. Aside from keeping my eye out here, I've got plenty of time. I have to break up my day. I set the alarm, you know, for an hour at a time, and I will practice sometime today for 2 hours on mandolin, violin, guitar, whatever. So I try to get at least 2 hours of practice in. I also have to stay active, so I'm going to scamper around these trails for a certain period of time. I'm going to make sure to eat right, of course. And also, bows. That's what I'm doing right now. This is my portion of the day for bows. It's a lovely 34 degrees out here. It's kind of damp, but it's good to make sawdust and sanding dust in the pole barn. I can do that. But also, I want to get started on designing a Australian racing dinghy type of boat. You know, I'm not sure. It's got kind of a shallow V in the front, and it might fade to a flat bottom for being on the plane. But I want to design one of those things and then combine it with that building method that the Gecko 375 canoe is. I can do that. That's within my technology. Who knows? Maybe I'll start selling them. I have to pay particular attention to certain details. You have to have flotation chambers and stuff like that to be able to sell a boat legally and, you know, ethically. But yeah, that is one of my goals this winter. Make 20 bows plus Phil's bows, get that thing finished out. Design and then build my version of the Australian racing dinghy, but in plywood, following the Gecko 375 type of construction method, which is, again, within my technology. And that is it. I better stop stalling and start making some sanding dust down here. Finish my bow making journey for the day and then grade into something else. Probably scampering around the trails to stay active, doing physical stuff. Have a good day. Thank you for watching and enjoy your Lennard Skinnard.